So the driver for most golfers, me included, can potentially be the one club in the bag that we have a real love-hate relationship with. When it's going well, we love it, but the rest of the time, just not really our favourite club. And as much as we work hard on our golf swings, what we really need to do with driver is set up correctly, put a swing on it, hopefully find as close to the middle of the club face as we can. That's going to give us decent accuracy and good distance. Now, we could see with TrackMan there, I didn't hit that flush out the middle of the club face. So I actually hit it slightly toe side of centre. Now, what's really tough for golfers is when the ball's curving and going offline, golfers try and work out what their path is, kind of what the club face has been like at impact to influence the ball. But hitting the ball in a different place on the face can make a huge difference because of the curve on the face and the gear effect. Once you're hitting it out the middle of the club face, you can get some proper feedback on what the club face and the path have done with the shape of the shot. But once you're hitting it out the toe, the heel, higher and lower, the ball's being influenced by strike. So I'm going to run through what you need to be working on at address and then getting some feedback from strike on how to change what you need to hit it out the middle, to ultimately hit the ball further, but also hit the ball more accurately. So the first mistake I see with a lot of golfers is as they set up to the golf ball, they put the club behind and they just presume that they've got the middle of the face lined up with the golf ball. But what they don't take into account is the angle of the shaft massively influences where the middle of that club face is at address. So the higher you lift the handle, the more the heel moves towards the ball, and the lowering of the handle moves the toe towards the ball. So a lot of the time for me, I kind of pop the club in behind the ball there and it looks out the middle, but because I tend to start with my hands a little bit low, already there, I can see that it's just slightly toe side of centre, which would definitely influence my strike tends to be there. So for me as a general rule, I probably feel that once I set up to the ball, I probably just need to feel a little bit, maybe half an inch closer to the golf ball than I would normally. And then I can set up, make my swing. And even though that was a bit low off the face, it was much closer to that centre line. And then I know there that my club face has just been a little bit closed. My path's been a little out to in. Even though TrackMan's not showing that, I know that the way I deliver the golf club is going to give me that shot. So for you personally, have a look at that. Set yourself up and just think about where your hands sit at address and then make any little compensation. If you're somebody who tends to be hands a lot higher, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but you might actually notice there that that's actually a little bit more towards the heel and you need to give yourself a bit of room. Now it's ultimately about how that handle comes back at impact, and most golfers I would say tend to go this way but then drag the club a little bit closer to them. So you can work on trying to feel the handle stays more consistent height through impact. The second part during the swing that can make a massive difference to how you strike the ball, and this is a massive one for me, is it depends whether the club is travelling up through impact or down through impact. Now, I think most golfers will agree that they're trying to get the club travelling up. So low point behind the ball, travelling up to launch it high and keep the spin off it. But when you look face on, the little challenge is as the club is moving up, potentially it's moving more left, which would mean that the middle of the club face is actually moving away from the ball. And that's definitely for me. As a general rule, I get my low point maybe 5, 6, 7 inches behind, hit up 4 or 5 degrees. And that's why a lot of my misses are a little bit toey. But if you're somebody who hits down with driver, ultimately, as the club's traveling down, it's coming more from the inside. So you might hit it a little out the heel. So, and I don't want this to sound complicated. I want you to, when you're practicing, monitor your strike and try and understand your golf swing. So, like I said, for me, I would stand a little closer to the golf ball than I would instinctively. And then I know I'm going to hit up quite a lot. My low point will be a long way behind. So let's just monitor this strike. So that one there is very slightly out the heel, but sweet spot. It's good. My low point's been 5.5 inches behind. The club's traveled up 3.6 degrees. I'd absolutely take that strike for me, and decent carry at 246 and 275 total. Now that would be closer to what I would be looking for, just not quick enough. But if I start getting my low point even further behind, that's where the club's traveled up more, the club's come a bit closer to me, and that's where I get that little toey one. So you can either work on that yourself or just play around a little bit with ball position. My tendency of driver is I get the ball too far forward. So yeah, lovely for trying to hit up, but definitely costs me a bit on strike. And if I feel then that we get that ball position, maybe a little bit feels more opposite my heart, and then straight away there I can feel I'm standing too far away from the ball. So a little bit closer, let those arms just hang down at address, put a good swing on it. And there we can see my low point not quite as far behind the ball. So the club's travelled up only 1 degree on that one, carry at 249 and total at 276. But even though that's not flush out the middle, it's sweet spot. And it's not too far off centre that we're going to see too much shape on the ball. And okay, it's maybe down the right side of the fairway, but I can live with that. Now, if I were to kind of get more into, maybe when I get into bad habits with driver, like we said, I get that ball way forward, I feel I could give myself a little bit more room. And it's a fantastic shot, but we can see low point 4 inches behind, club's travelled up 2 degrees. It's a little bit low off the face, and it's a little bit more towards the toe. And it's still a fantastic result at 250 and 277. But I can see there that I would normally be a little bit more behind that and hit up more. And we can see how that strike's just moving a little bit more towards the toe. But with driver, strike is so important. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's important with every club. But with driver, it is really, really key. And I'm not saying you have to hit it out the middle every time. I think the key is the closer to the middle you can get, obviously the more accurate your feedback. But as long as your strike pattern is consistent and your delivery is decently consistent, you should get a consistent shot, which you can play for. But the challenge for a lot of golfers is that strike's moving around a lot. But like I said, don't be afraid of thinking about how far from the ball you are at address. Ultimately, the angle of the handle can massively affect, even at address, can be where the club's sitting, but where the angle of the handle is, whether it's lower, might be more toey strike, very high, might be heely. And then if you can, understand whether you're trying to hit up, whether you're somebody who naturally hits down a bit more with driver, and make the adjustments you need with ball position to try and give yourself the best chance of hitting the middle of the club face. Yes, you're going to get the most ball speed, so get that energy from club to ball. But like I said, if you're hitting it very, very close to the middle, you have an understanding that the ball sets off where the club face points and the shape is down to the path. But if you're hitting it very heely or very toey, it's incredibly difficult for you to learn, get good feedback, and therefore it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to make the change you need in the swing, because it's not a swing issue, it's a strike issue. So monitor strike, watch the video again if you need, because there's a bit of information in there. Get down to the range, put it into practice, and start hitting some of the longest, straightest drives of your life.